Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to a midday update. I am Laz. Not much to talk about today. We saw a little bit of a gap down. First we've seen in a couple of days as this market's been just, completely strong here. The gap down was not surprisingly bought. We'll take a look at the chart in the morning just to kind of get an idea of what I'm talking about and what do we do from here and how should we think about this market and how to position ourselves potentially for what may be to come. So let's take a look here. I'll flip over to my charts. And this is the daily of the S&Ps. We're looking at the spiders. The one thing, we need to keep on the radar here is the last two sessions, yesterday and the day before, we saw some selling late into the close causing these topping tails. So the market's had a nice move here. We may be getting a little long-winded. The market might be getting a little tired at these elevated levels. And we still have to respect the possibility of the this upward trend line that we've sort of mentioned. Now we are above it, which bodes well for the bulls, but you have to be careful again with these little bit of tails here the last couple of days. The other thing that I want to throw out there, as far as studies go and things to pay attention to, is the Bollinger Bands. And the Bollinger Bands are interesting because it's not the band itself that's the interesting part, it's the close. And if we look at the Bollinger Bands, especially with the spiders, generally when you trade outside of these bands, and you can go back in time and we'll do that, it tends to create reversal type scenarios. So as we, pierce these upper and lower bands, that's when sometimes you get those counter directional trades. So we're going to keep an eye on that. And if I just go back here on my chart, you can see especially when we close outside of the bands, as an example here where we close below the lower band, over the next couple of days it caused that counter trend. Up here, again, causing that counter trend. So they're just very subtle. Again, there's not many of them, and I'm just sort of scrolling back, and you can see how, closes outside the bands can lead to reversals. Again, back here. So, just something, a little food for thought there and stuff to keep on the radar. But right now, short term, the market is strong. We'll look at some of the smaller time frames. This is a 10-minute chart. You can see the gap down this morning and being bought, filling the gap, and retracing from yesterday's highs to today's lows about 62%. We can get a better look at that here. Fib retracement. Here was yesterday's highs. And today's lows at the open, about 78.6%, another key retracement level that I'm always looking at before starting to turn down here. As we approach lunch, it's been a very muted session, very, very quiet. A lot of the leadership stocks sort of taking a breather. We'll go back to the dailies here just to get a good, sort of look. Amazon, a stock that has a nice bullish-looking setup here. Pulls back into a rising average, just sort of taking the day off. Apple as well, sort of taking the day off, trying to hold above this 620 mark, and over the last couple of days, just building a sideways base. Obviously, traders are very much on the lookout for higher prices here in Apple. This morning, we saw some selling. It's turned into buying through lunch. Not surprising, as these stocks are in very good bullish-looking patterns, and look to, traders are looking to accumulate these things. I guess the stock du jour today, Priceline, I need to open this up a little bit, gapping down about 15% on earnings, about $100 this morning on a gap down. Have this bear flag set up on this is a weekly chart going into earnings, and that bear flag, sort of morphing itself into this down, big down move. Where is support in Priceline? Well, this is now what we consider a broken chart. We peaked way back here in April and May at the 770 mark, and now we're trading about 570. Short-term support, we have to say, is down around 550 area into the, into this prior resistance, should prove to be some level of short-term support. But when a stock, breaks down and breaks down hard and fast, especially post-earnings, it is a very, very difficult trade to step in and pick a bottom. Case in point, Chipotle. Chipotle, not too long ago, 2-3 weeks ago, a gap down on earnings, and traded lower in the short term, and really hasn't, we haven't seen any real buying sustain there in Chipotle. So keep that in mind, when stocks break, and I'll go back to Priceline, they tend to break and stay at these lower levels for quite a bit of time. MLNX, the one, bright spot here, MLNX, I talked about this yesterday in the VTF, above this 109 area, stock breaking out today, very convincingly into this 8-period EMA here, and above prior highs. Keep an eye on that one for short-term strength and even potentially higher prices. Outside of that is a very, very mixed, having a very mixed session here. I'm scanning about 40, 50 symbols right now, and all my scan, I probably have, most of them being flat, most of my stocks being relatively flat or, neutral for the day, not much price action happening. And there are a handful of stocks like an MLNX that are trending higher, and some of them, some of my symbols are starting to, tick down ever so slightly. I'll show you one that I'm looking at right now. Whole Foods, WFM, slowly starting to just grind down here again. Very difficult trading stock. Post-earnings had this big gap up. We saw a gap up about 3 days ago. Again, not much commitment here, but this is something that looks like it wants to get in to fill this gap and possibly down into the 92 area. For disclosure purposes, I am short a little Whole Foods here. But that being said, very, very, very tough price action right now. Part of what we do and part of how we operate and part of how we think is just understanding that sometimes less is more, and to know when, momentum and volume are in your favor and things are starting to work for you versus when, the market takes a breather and a pause and there's, just not much price action happening, which is really more of what I'm seeing today. So it's actually good for the bulls. The market needs to take a rest after a nice run. Couple days of consolidation before potentially another lift higher. So we'll see how this market develops over the next couple of hours and even over the next couple of days. As always, I'm Laz. A plan trader is a profitable trader, and I'll talk to you on the VTF in a little bit. Have a good day.